Hello everyone, welcome to your final lap, the last leg of your CA final preparations. A big kudos to you to hold on till now and continue your preparations, and that's really commendable. So today's video is a quick update. I'll not take more of your time for your last week study plan for financial reporting, the ABC analysis, and important exam tips to remember. So let's dive directly into it. In terms of our ABC analysis, we have segregated into three main categories. As you can see, around 70 to 75 marks. Yes, 70 to 75 marks come from, on an average, these topics. That is category A topics, your standard topics like business combination, financial instruments, consolidation, lease and revenue. The two new standards will almost certainly get weightage. Ensure you glance through them as well. Apart from that, other institute favorites like EPS, income taxes, impairment and PP together, and foreign exchange borrowing cost along with certain other standards are also fairly important. We have listed this down and you will get this on the Telegram channel as well. Category B is 3 to 5 marks. Paper 1 is one of the longest papers, and since it is your paper 1, you don't have to cramp everything up in 1.5 days. You will have a good week, bare minimum 6 days to prepare. So you should be targeting glancing through everything, not just selective things. You would have even seen the Jan 21 paper as well. The institute now is having a much more wider coverage, testing multiple indices in one question as well. So try to ensure that you at least glance through stuff, if not a lot of length. It is in category B and even in category C. So a few changes. Largely it remains the same, but if you have seen the November 20 video, the weightage is largely the same, just that we have kind of put cash flow to be slightly more important, CSR to be, let's say, in a slightly lesser important. It is going to come, but fairly standardized weightage or standardized questions, and borrowing costs. So you can just quickly glance through this so that you can get an overview of the importance. By now, you would be knowing probably better than me the importance. The topics to be covered, the study plan largely remains the same. I would want you to start with share-based payments, something which is almost certain to come in your exam, and you will and you would be among the assured weightage topics. This is the shortest and probably the easiest. Sets the tone, sets the preparation, minimum 6 days. So if I'm looking at the exam on the 5th of July, ideally you will start from Monday or Tuesday. So Tuesday at max, just try to start. If you're pressed for time, take a day more. In other subjects, if you're pressed for time, take a day more, but please ensure you do not compromise with the number of days. This is your opening subject. I'm not telling this because I teach FR, but this is your opening partnership, and for opening batsmen to do really well is so important for the entire batting order, right? In a game of cricket, in a similar way, irrespective of which paper this was, paper number 1 deserves its due weightage. You are probably writing an exam after 3 long years, and you're not used to writing exam under such stress or pressure-based situations. You want your first paper to go well. Do not really compromise for a day or so. Ensure that you give full coverage because it is your first exam. There would be certain nerves. I'm sure they would be settled, but ensure you give adequate time for preparation so that you don't panic when you are actually going to give the first paper. That is at least my viewpoint. If you think that is not fitting in your study plan, if you have to reduce the number of days for each respective day, whatever the time weightage I've given, reduce it by 20%. So if you think that you have just 5 days or just 4 days, 4 days is just stretching it too short. But if you have that, then reduce the time weightage everywhere that I've given by 20% per day. And you can stick to the same schedule. After that goes the big daddy of your CA final FR preparation, that is financial instruments. Yes, do that on the very first day. Do not wait for the end or in the middle. You will kind of lose track. So ensure that you do financial instruments as well. We have given a few focus areas. Remember, this is not the only thing you have to study. You have to do a balanced preparation, but these are the important topics that I've written, like compound financial instruments and stuff. Then we would want to balance our study between indices and topics, not just do all indices at one go, keep the topics at the end, or do all topics at one and keep the indices at the end. So sequentially, we would want to do all the asset linked indices which come in module 2, everything that comes in module 2, which are asset linked, like inventories, tangible, intangible assets, non-current assets held for sale, impairment, in everything, agriculture, coming over here, along with the schedule 3 for your preparation and government grants. This is what I would want you to do. And then on a fresh day, start with lease, finish with lease. There might be certain parts of lease which you're not very comfortable with. That's fine. It's not going to come for 15 or 20 marks. It is going to come for anywhere between 5 to 10 marks, but it is going to come. So please don't leave it entirely. Just glance through it, at least 70-80% of it, especially the numerical part in leases. The initial part of the standard is more of theory. The latter part is more of numericals. Focus on the numericals. Then going to business combination. So we have done 1 day of topics, 1 day of indices. Now we're doing topics, that is business combination. And in the sequence, the moment business combination gets over, the logical sequence behind this would be consolidation. And almost certain 15 or 16 mark question in the exam. So ensure that you do this. Don't keep it at the end. Otherwise, you will not have enough time to practice this. Business combination, consolidation, I would strongly recommend at least a few questions. Do it on pen and paper. Get that entire big sum solving sequence. How do you prepare the format? Where do you prepare the notes? Get that in place. Then comes foreign exchange. There are certain concepts of consolidation and business combination that kind of spill over into foreign exchange. Concepts of financial instrument that spill over into foreign exchange. So I'd prefer you do these big topics first and then foreign exchange. Revenue recognition, again an almost certain weightage. Ensure that you glance through it. Questions of revenue have been fairly tricky, just to kind of prepare you in the exam. But nevertheless, you never know. You would be in a fairly fortunate attempt as well. Then you look at other indices, the important ones जो हमने tier 1 में डाले थे, 12, 19, 33, etc. On an average 2 hours at least. For these important ones, the not so important ones can get done in half an hour to an hour, at max an hour and a half. Then you try to finish all the pending topics, the simpler ones, Indias 1, 7, 8, 10, etc. Why have we kept this slightly at the end? Because we don't, if you have to speed up, if your time is falling short, if you are not as per plan, you can kind of push the pedal and do these slightly faster. Events occurring after the balance sheet date can be done faster as compared to cramping up financial instruments. And hence I've tried to keep this at the end. And at the end, in the exam, like you have seen the WTC finals, the importance of a buffer day, right? Or for an Indian fan, not very important, nevertheless. So you have an exam day. In the morning, you keep a buffer. We know that we might not follow the pattern exactly. So some buffer. And if you do follow it, excellent. Hats off to you. And you can use that for a quick recap. Don't really think on revising financial instruments twice and thrice. It is not required. If you have kind of gone through it once, you would be still well prepared while writing the exam. Don't worry. So that is about your last week's study plan. I'll share this document. Important exam tips: time management, the most valuable thing. 180 minutes, 3 hours, and 100 marks. That is 1.8 minutes per mark. On an average, you have to stick to that rule. 10 mark question, 18 minutes. 20 marks of the question. But let's say 20 mark question, 36 minutes. The only question that will take you for a ride is a consolidation question, where you will find it slightly difficult to finish it within the allotted time. And hence you need to cover the time up in certain theory-based index questions. Ensure that you keep a tab on your time. It is your first paper. It is human for you to kind of be extremely careful in the presentation, in making lines, making boxes. All of that is secondary. Focus on content. Get your numbers and case conclusions in place. All of that, all of the presentation and kind of decorative part is secondary. financial reporting is undoubtedly, you ask any of your seniors, and it is the most difficult paper to complete in those allotted 3 hours. Ensure that you get your exam nerves settled and start writing the paper in full flow. Preferably, you should avoid using short forms, but if you realize you're running out of time, use the short forms. Maybe some marks would be deducted. However, in the larger scheme of things, if you can pull out 3 or 4 or 5 minutes and solve one question, the speed at which we write at the end is abnormally high. So that will help you a lot. Plan your time. Different people react to stress differently. If you have 50 marks and last 1 hour left, you might kind of not be in the right frame of mind to write. So ensure that you pace your exam properly. Okay. In terms of sequence, every person for his own. But if I were to write a paper, I would use my reading time to find the question that I'm most comfortable with. Identify all the subparts. The most comfortable question in those 15 minutes is my target. After that, I glance through the paper. I can't read everything in 15 minutes. It is not possible. I glance through the paper, find out that this seems to have the most comfortable subparts, find that, narrow that down, and then glance through the remaining subparts to kind of figure out which is the more difficult question which I can kind of leave. Do not even touch the compulsory question in your reading time. It is a criminal waste of time because you have to attempt it. You have to look at the other questions first. And hence, that is what my recommendation would be, but that is on you. That is on you to decide. Consolidation business combination is something that I would definitely want to attempt somewhere in the middle of the paper. Never would I attempt it as the first question. It would take an inordinate amount of time and probably jeopardize my entire paper writing time. I would not even do it at the end because even in consolidation business combination, there is stepwise marking. Stepwise would mean goodwill as a number would have marks. NC as a number would have marks. It is not every step or every equal to sign carries a mark. It is these important numbers carry marks. Your reserves carry marks. So, for example, if you have spent 20-25 minutes and you have not reached the logical conclusion in terms of even goodwill or let's say retained earnings or let's say NCI, you are not going to get a large majority of marks. And hence, to keep it right at the end is kind of making it a little more risky. So somewhere in the middle of the paper is the apt time to do consolidation. In terms of presentation, the case-based questions, explain the law, connect the law to the given case and conclude in your own words. You don't need to reproduce Ind AS language. If you remember the Ind AS number, which ideally you should, you can write the as per Ind AS 16, property, plant and equipment and then solve. If you don't remember, that's still fine. You should know the law. In practical questions, you can solve directly. And where required, you can give a brief explanation linked to Ind AS. It should not be as detailed as the ones that you use in the regular Ind AS theory base. If something requires an explanation, like for example, if there's a hidden staff welfare benefit in a loan at concessional rate, you will just briefly explain on why that balancing is going into staff welfare and so on. But brief explanation. Because that is more of a solving. If required, you will explain. The problem is a lot of students, including even myself, if I was a student, would really freak out at the thought of a difficult paper. Remember, it's difficult for you. If it helps you, it is difficult for everyone else as well. And generally, a difficult paper comes with a lenient checking, and an easy paper comes with a slightly difficult checking, which means everything is averaged out at the end of the day. So I know it's easier to say, but don't panic. It's an exam, it is difficult, you have to address it. You can't go back in time and rewind the clock and do anything right now. A tough paper comes with lenient checking. Take each question at a time. Do not kind of run to the next question before you are done with the current question, because that is the most basic reason for a silly mistake. You do calculations before before your allotted grade. You kind of mess up over there. Before the exams, get a good night's sleep. Not just for paper one, for every paper. Sir, हमारे एक topic रह जाता है, रह जाने दो. A clear mind, a mind which is at peace, which is not fatigued, which is not tired, can think through through the questions. It can think out of the box. A tired, a fatigued mind would not be able to do that. So it's non-negotiable. If a topic is left, ideally you should plan better. If not, let it go, but do not compromise on your sleep. Do not under any circumstances do that. Be on time, obviously, and have a positive frame of mind. It's very, very important. At the end, whatever you have studied, what is done is done. You can't change anything on the last 1 or 2 days. You can't create miracles. Back yourself. Be very confident of what you have done. There would be people who are going to score more marks than you. That does not really hamper you in any way. Ensure that what you are doing is to the best of your ability, and back yourself for all the preparations done. Remember, you have to score 100, may say 50. That's kind of on an overly simplistic basis, going wrong every alternate question and still passing. It can't be so difficult to pass, right? It is just that we can probably freak out and we would kind of say, yaar, meko ye question nahi aata. Hoga yaar. In every exam, you would find a question or two which is in all the 8 papers, which you are unable to address. Usko apan costing ke language mein normal loss bolte. We say that there would be some 5-10 marks of questions which would go out as normal loss. In a slightly difficult paper, there would be some more. But it is impossible that if you have done basic preparations, that you will not be able to address the entire paper. You will be able to. So back yourself. Look at the questions that kind of give you confidence first. Post exams, avoid discussing the paper to the best extent possible with your friends immediately after the exam hall, etc. Because different people have different thought processes. However, generally, what is done is done. You don't want to revolve around whatever is done. Focus on the next paper. If after all papers you want to come back, you do come back, but do not really waste that valuable time in discussing and probably having your confidence gone from one place to the other. But again, this is entirely on you. When you are preparing, start a light topic for the next paper straight away, whichever. For example, you're looking at paper 2, SFM after FR. You pick up with a slightly lighter topic which you are more comfortable with, rather than starting something like a foreign exchange or a derivatives, so that you get into the rhythm. You are already tired with the long day of exam. Pick up a lighter topic. Keep the heavier topics for the second day. But I would leave it to the subject matter experts and to you to decide what to do in that half day. You want to do the difficult topic or the easier one. I think I've consumed a lot of your time, but I hope this was helpful. Back yourself, be positive, pray regularly, be thankful, sleep well, and by no means do you drop out in the middle. Unless there is a health emergency, do not drop out in the middle. You do not know what is in store for you. There have been innumerable occasions in the past where students have cleared the most unexpected papers and have not really done well in the best papers that have written. Do not preempt the marking scheme of the institute and the examiner. Do your job. Karam karo. Do your job. Write the papers. Back yourself. No matter how tough it goes, keep writing. Do not at any point let that thought envelope you that you're ye aisa, ye waisa. Do not think it. आपने इतना मेहनत किया, 8 पेपर दो, खत्म करो. If you're giving one group, obviously 4 papers, but ensure that you kind of stick through your target. Take each paper as it comes. There would be some difficult papers. There would be some easy papers. It's an exam. Scoring 50 marks out of 100. It is not 99.99 like CAT. Loosely speaking, but you will sail through. Back yourself. Back your strengths. As far as possible, avoid doing anything which is completely new on the very last day. Does not help. 9 out of 10 cases, it will break your confidence rather than making it. So, that should be it. Thank you very much for your patience and your time. Good luck. Goodbye. Take care.